Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of That Sounds Fun. I'm your host, Annie F. Downs. I'm so happy to be here with you today and for this whole month. Listen, today we kick off a special series called Build Your Board, a That Sounds Fun podcast series in which we want to help you find the voices you need to live the life you want. In a world of influencers, you get to decide who is influencing you. So do you have a board of directors for your life? Sure, you don't have to give them an official name or make them attend meetings as a group a few times a year, but the people who speak into your life matter. The community you surround yourself with helps you grow as a person and grow in your relationship with God. And we want to help you figure out who you need right now and how to find them. You're going to hear from real people who speak into my life and experts who you will love learning from. And we've created a Build Your Board guidebook for this series. There are pages to take notes for every episode starting today and questions to walk through and process so that by the end of the series, you will have this completed resource and the answer to the question, who is the next voice I need to help me build the life that I want? You can get that guidebook at anniefdowns.com/buildyourboard. And before we dive into today's conversation, I want to tell you about one of our incredible partners, Athletic Greens. Listen, y'all know I am in packing mode for New York, and you know my AG1 by Athletic Greens is coming along with me. I want to keep my normal healthy rhythms while I step into my 2 months in NYC, and AG1 is truly such a simple way to incorporate all the nutrients you need into your day with just one scoop. AG1 was designed with ease in mind so you can live healthier and better without having to do a lot of steps, except those 10,000 you want to get every day. All you do is mix 1 scoop of powder in cold water once a day. You know my favorite way to drink it is to shake mine up with a couple of cubes of frozen lemon juice. It's just a little extra something special. Every scoop is filled with 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced quality ingredients that provide all of these major benefits. AG1 supports your gut and mood, boosts energy, helps your immune system, and even supports healthier looking skin, hair, and nails. And their single serving travel packs are so helpful. Just throw a pack in your bag and they'll make it so easy to bring along with you. You don't have to set a reminder to order or worry about running out because AG1 is delivered like clockwork every month. So it's so convenient to make it a daily habit. If you're looking for an easier way to take supplements, AG1 is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. So go to athleticgreens.com/soundsfun. That's athleticgreens.com/soundsfun. So check that out. So today on the show, as we kick off our Build Your Board series, we are talking with Al Andrews. Listen, we knew before we started talking about the voices you needed to add to your life, we wanted to get to the root of it all, loneliness. It's at an all-time high, and we know by now that loneliness isn't about relationship status. You can be lonely even when you're dating someone or married, lonely when you're in a crowded room, lonely when you feel like you have all the people in your life that you need. So Al Andrews is the perfect person to help us start this series. You're going to love him and the wisdom he brings. He's the founder and executive director of Porter's Call, a nonprofit here in Franklin, Tennessee that has offered free counsel, support, and encouragement to recording artists since 2001. He was the right voice for us to sit down and start this series with. Now, you don't have to have the Build Your Board guidebook in order to enjoy the series, of course. But if you do have your Build Your Board guidebook, we are going to be taking notes on page 5. So here's my Build Your Board conversation with Al Andrews. Al Andrews, welcome to That Sounds Fun.
It is great to be here.
What an honor. You are I do not use this lightly. You are a legend. And so to be in the studio with you is just such a gift. So thanks for making time for this in a busy schedule.
Well, and thanks for referring to me as a legend. That's just an honor and a little odd to me.
Well, you know this, but I don't know if our audience knows the story. That I am with the counselor I'm with because of you. Really? Do you remember in 2013, I really needed a therapist. Mm-hmm. And your Porter's Call has very good boundaries about who you can see and who you can't see. Yeah. And I did not meet all the requirements.
You're not an artist.
That's right. That's right. I don't sing. I remember you saying you travel enough, but you don't do the right thing on the stage. And I said, okay. And I'm on the road as much as them, but I don't sing. And then you gave me a list of therapists that you knew could work with my lifestyle, and it has just changed my life.
I'm so glad.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that. I want to start, we are going to deep dive into the question, why am I lonely? But I want to start with one of your legendary quotes that everyone talks about, because I think whether someone has a public life or not, they have some version of public life because of social media. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of younger men and women who listen to us that are hoping to get public. And one of your quotes that could be a tattoo on my body is the human heart wasn't built for fame.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that for just a second? I feel that, but.
Yeah, I think I didn't come up with that early along in this thing, but as I watched artists that I work with move from not fame to fame, it's really hard. It's really hard to be separated like that, to be lifted up, to be seen for what you show publicly, and not to be known. And I think there's so many things that come with it. I liken it to the time that for the first time in my life, I was bumped up to first class in an airplane.
Yeah.
And I got up there, and it didn't take me about 15 minutes to start being annoyed at the people making noise with their peanuts in the back.
Right.
And, don't use our bathroom. There's one back there for y'all. And I was just bumped up by accident.
Right.
And I laugh about it, but it was kind of true that, I could get used to this.
Right.
And it makes me become something that I'm not. Now, if somebody gets famous, we can help them with it by bringing them back to reality as much as we can and help them to do things that will make things real. But it's a very, very difficult thing. I just don't think we're built for it.
Yeah. My experience, I'm not famous compared to many of our peers, but I'm not invisible either. I have a very public life. And that remembering that when I feel the tension of, I don't know if it's supposed to be like this, I'm like, well, Al says my human heart was not built for this. This is not how it's meant to be.
Well, yeah, and I think there's a loneliness in it. For instance, when you're on stage doing your best, everyone fantasizes about your life. They go, oh my gosh, she sounds so great. And you are, by the way. But she sounds so great. And she must have the best life. And oh gosh, I would just, and they dream about what it's like to be you. And that can create loneliness in you if a lot of people dream the same thing and think the same thing. It's harder to be real.
Yeah, this has happened more times. I mean, well, here's a perfect example. Last summer when my nephew passed away, I had a nephew that lived for 2 months. And when he passed away, the whole time we were going through it, my family did not want it to be public. Understandably. That was great. But I had to do my job.
Wow.
And so I was getting on social media and recording podcasts and doing everything during the week. And then Thursday would drive to Atlanta and be with my family all weekend and be with my little nephew. We weren't public about him until 2 weeks after his funeral.
Yeah. Oh.
And so the disintegration of that season was I don't live that disintegrated.
Right.
And so, but I did it I wouldn't do it any different. That's what my family needed, what I needed, honestly. My Enneagram 7-ness loved to turn that light switch off, turn this light switch on. I mean, you know that. I was kind of great. I'm back in Nashville where my life is great, so I didn't hate it, but the disintegration, that's a very grief-centric story, but I can have that disintegration if I'm not careful on any stage or in any airplane of here's what's happening in my private life. I can pretend like everything's great.
Yeah. It's that distance between how you're perceived and what you know is true.
Right.
And sometimes when that distance has to be, I don't go to a concert thinking that someone's going to talk about their depression.
Right.
I go to a concert to be entertained, to love it, whatever. And that distance between the person on stage and the person observing them, or the person they know they are, is kind of a tedious conflict. Where do I go?
But I mean, the truth is moms have to do that. They've got to get the kids ready for school, even if she and her husband had a massive fight the night before.
Oh.
And she's got to get them up and get them ready to school and take them. Or the doctor, surgeons have to do surgery even if their private life is falling apart.
Yeah, and that's true of everybody.
Yeah, it's not unique.
I can't tell you the number of times Nita and I have had a disagreement or an argument, and then I have to go preach.
Yeah.
Or speak somewhere.
Right.
And it's like, oh, this is really hard. But there is that distance. And the distance can make you lonely.
I was about to say, so as we dive into this question of why am I lonely, is part of our loneliness that we never get to be, and never is a big word, I hear myself, that we never get to be fully integrated. And so we're the only ones who know us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That feels terrible, but I think that's true.
I do think it's true.
Yeah.
I do think it's true.
So what do we do if we're the only one who knows us?
Well, that statement is a problem, obviously, because if we're the only one who knows us, it doesn't take us long to start making up stuff.
Ah, wow.
Because there's no reflection of another person. There's no words from another person. If we're the only one who knows us, then it goes bad. It just goes bad because we start thinking of things that are not true about ourselves. I wonder why I'm lonely. Well, maybe it's because I'm not as interesting as people. I wonder why my phone doesn't ring. Well, because not that many people like me. Or, you can keep on going. But
Are they hanging out without me?
Yeah. And you're going to love this. That's the reason I'm not on Facebook.
Really?
Because years ago I got on Facebook because I was supposed to.
Yeah.
And I would look on there and I'd see all these people who are friends having fun at a birthday party. I'm going, I wasn't invited.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
so mature like
Yes.
that.
I'm the same way, though.
And then I saw other things going on and other people having fun. And I went, I'm just not mature enough to do this Facebook thing because I see things, then I make stuff up, and then it makes me lonely. And most of it's not true, but when you're by yourself, you make things up.
Is everybody lonely?
Absolutely. But here's the thing. I think there's a loneliness that we're built with.
Oh, yeah. Talk about that.
And a loneliness that comes with the territory but doesn't have to be. I think the loneliness we're built with, we can go way, way back to the garden.
Yeah, do that.
To the story of the garden where God builds all these things and then he builds a man and he goes, well, he's not meant to be alone. Notice he didn't say he's lonely. He's not built to be alone.
Yeah.
And so he created Eve to be with him and they were together. And for a while, there was no loneliness in the world. They spoke to God. They spoke to each other. They got each other, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
They understood what each other was like. There was no anger. There was no separation between them at all, not even close. Nothing.
And they had work to do.
Yeah, and they had work to do and good work that always was successful.
Wow.
There were no bugs that ate plants. There were no floods. There was no drought. And so they were together. There was never a time when one of them came home from working and said, hey, and the other person said, it's about time you came home. They never said that.
Right.
Right. I have been here all day or something like that. But because there was communion, because there was conversation back and forth, and because there was no shame, which I cannot imagine, there was no loneliness because they got each other and they were communicating. After they ate the forbidden fruit in the story, they were disconnected from each other and from God. God had to go looking for them. And they hid. They were afraid. And so I think from that point on, it's never gotten completely back.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we wouldn't feel loneliness. We wouldn't be having this conversation. I read a book by Kurt Thompson, the psychiatrist who's one of my favorite people.
Yes.
And in one book he said, everyone is born looking for someone who's looking for them.
Wow.
And I think that speaks to it. We're born hungry for relationship.
Yeah.
I want to say we're born lonely. And we're looking for someone who's looking for them. And that's so important because when a child is born and someone is not looking for them, it impacts their whole life. Because we want to be seen and we want to be known.
Yes.
And so to me, I think, without going into a dictionary definition of loneliness, I would feel like loneliness is the feeling of being alone and the feeling of being unseen. Notice I said feeling rather than the reality, because it is a feeling.
Yeah. You can be lonely in a room full of people.
Right.
Yes.
And so it's a feeling, and there's a difference between loneliness and being alone. Loneliness is wanting. I want something I don't have. Solitude is having, but we can get into that later.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between loneliness and solitude, and there's a difference between loneliness and being alone.
Yeah. I'm having two thoughts about the book of Genesis I've never had in my life. So everybody else is probably like, duh, Annie. But I have never thought about, when you're talking about Genesis and talking about Adam and Eve, that it wasn't like one day they were made and the next day they ate the apple.
Right.
All of a sudden I'm going like, was it weeks? Was it years? I have never thought about that, Al, but they existed for a amount of time.
Oh, I would think it'd be a good while. And you know,
Never
if
thought
you
of that.
think about that, you think there was a season where nothing went wrong.
Yeah.
Nothing went wrong, which feels like a fantasy to me.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know?
That we won't get through today.
Right.
Without something
like
going
in
wrong
the next
for
few
somebody.
minutes, hopefully
Right.
not.
We've tried to control all the factors in this room. This
So
is
far-
our Eden.
so far
for
we're
the
doing
next 30
great.
minutes. Yeah.
But I think if you think about that for a little while, that really does mean no shame, feeling no shame about anything, your body, what you said, feeling a total connection with one another,
Yeah.
total connection with no exceptions, and a total connection with God with no exceptions. There was never a time when they said, I wonder where God is. I wonder if he's listening. Because
Right.
he was.
Yeah, he was there with them.
And I want to think that it lasted for a while. That's just my own fantasy. That it lasted for a while, and it just accentuates what happened, and it accentuates what happened afterwards.
Right.
Because there was a moment where Adam and Eve are sitting outside the garden, and they could smell the garden. And in their hearts, I could sense them say, each of them in their own way, both angrily and with sorrow, I just want to go home. And I just want to go home.
Yeah.
And feeling that I want to go home. So in loneliness is a homesickness that I think we all have, because we're not in the garden anymore. We're not home. And we will be home one day.
Yes.
But there's a chronic homesickness that we have, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing we have to admit.
Yes.
Because if we admit that, we won't feel bad about that.
Yeah.
There's sometimes I just want to be home. I don't want to take my life. I just want to be home.
Yeah.
But I'm not there yet. There's a film, an old film that when I've asked somebody, have you seen this film? And I look back and it was like 45 years old, called Trip to Bountiful.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it.
And it's she won the Academy Award that year. It's about an old woman who lives with her daughter and son-in-law in a little apartment in Houston. And she wants to go back to her home called Bountiful, Texas. And they won't let her go. And she sneaks away.
Oh, my gosh.
And starts to go back and goes back. It was a play at one time. But anyway, but she seeks to go back. And all this little adventure to get back.
Sure.
And she gets home, and she sees the old buildings that used to be. And she weeps because it's not like it used to be. But she gets in the car, and the theme music of the whole movie is Softly and Tenderly, Jesus is Calling.
Oh, wow.
Calling, O sinner, come home. And she basically says, I've had my trip.
Wow.
And she rides off. And it's beautiful. It just says there's a homesickness in us all, and we want to go home.
I told you this when we were talking about this before, but there was such a shift in me maybe 5 years ago, a little bit more possibly. There was such a shift in me when I swallowed that pill that said, you are actually going to live with loneliness forever. Stop trying to medicate. Stop trying to change. Stop trying to fill. Like I said to you, when loneliness stopped making decisions for me and instead was just a companion that is with me at times louder and quieter.
That's a great line. I'm going to totally steal that.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. You stole one of mine.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
That is a great point, to invite it as a companion.
Yes.
And there's a loneliness that is good, and there's a loneliness that makes you feel like a victim and you become isolated.
Okay, great. How do we know which is which?
Well, usually I think shame is involved in the second. Because if I'm lonely, and like you said, let it be a friend, let it be a companion, that just feels really healthy. And that feels like an honest admission that I can never be truly known by anyone.
Yeah.
Because I feel that loneliness. I'm married and I love my wife and she loves me. But there are times when I feel really lonely. And sometimes it's because we have something going on that's not good. But sometimes it's because it's just true.
Yeah.
And it's that one. I love the idea of embracing that, because then you can let that one go as a problem.
Yeah.
And go to the other one, which is, I would say, a little more whiny.
Yeah. It is in my head. That's a great way to do it.
Yeah, because, when I feel that one, I go, gosh, I don't know if I have that many friends, really. And you get to lying to yourself, and I'm not sure what that's all about, except for usually there's just something that triggers it. You feel lonely, and then you take it to another level that doesn't exist, really. But that leads you to isolation. And isolation never works because you don't have voices telling you the truth.
An interesting thing, I'm sure you've seen this in your work as a therapist, but an interesting thing that single people do, particularly single women that me and my friends do, is when loneliness says, I haven't met anyone, when it turns to the isolation loneliness, there is no one.
Right.
There is no option. There is no one in this town. There's no one in my life. There's no opportunity. And you go like, well, that is just not true. Even the smallest town.
Right.
Get on an app and extend your mileage.
Right.
It's not true.
Yes.
But that's what we hear in our heads is my loneliness will never be solved.
And it's not only about there is nobody, but you add to that, there is nobody and it's because of me. Shame is always involved in that kind of loneliness.
Yes. I mean, what I'm learning from you today is shame seems like the evil stepsister of loneliness. Like if loneliness is Cinderella, shame is the evil stepsister.
That's a great way to. We have a book on that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're getting to work right after this.
That's right.
But
that really
that's
is
it,
true.
Right?
It really feels true because with shame, you make up things that are not true.
Yeah.
It's just the strangest thing. And you've talked often about getting people in the right seats.
Yeah.
And to me, that really is an important antidote to the wrong kind of loneliness.
Right. That is, gosh, Al, that is so good because what we hope happens this month is that everyone gets to the end of the month and goes, here's one seat I need to fill. Yes, it's time for a counselor. Yes, I need a financial coach. Yes, I need more adult friends. Fill just one seat. But do not expect to stop feeling lonely.
Right.
Separate out the Cinderella from the stepsister.
Yes.
And live with Cinderella.
Right. And because you live with Cinderella and you live with Cinderella because she's hearing things that are true. I remember there was a time I was lonely for a long time. I hadn't had any counseling, and I knew when I was 19 I needed it, and I was 32 and single.
Oh, wow.
And finally...
That's like half your life.
That's about half my life. And there was a lot of shame, a lot of fear, and a lot of loneliness, the difficult kind.
Yes.
And a friend of mine noticed this, and he asked me the strangest question. I had all these friends who were my age. Most of them were couples because they were more fun. But I hadn't met you then. But I was around a lot of couples, and it kind of made me feel less lonely for some reason.
I think so too. Were you here in Nashville?
No, I was in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Okay.
And my friend asked me this question one day. He said, so I have a question, Al. When you're with us, and it's people my age or a little older, two things. How old do you feel? And what do you think we think about you?
Oh, wow.
I know. And it just came out of my mouth really quickly. I said, I feel about 16, 17. And he goes, okay. What do you think we think about you? And I said, I think you like me. I think you like me, but I kind of think you pity me. And I said a few things like that, I think you feel sorry for me, and I kind of think you think there's something wrong with me.
Wow.
And these big old cow tears formed in his eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there looking at him, and he said, you know what makes me so sad? I go, what? He says, you believe that you're one of those little go-karts at the beach that have a governor on them that can only go so fast when they go around that little trail, that little,
That's right.
at the go-kart. but everyone else believes that you're a Formula One race car.
Wow.
And I felt the rumble in my stomach, and it came up to my throat, and I just lost it. Put my head in my hands because somebody from the outside spoke a truth to me. And it was I could lose it right now. It was such a pivotal moment in my life. And loneliness shifted a bit that day because I was going, I have perceived this all wrong. And could I believe that's true? And I didn't sleep that night just for the craziness of his statement, for the fear of it, as well as also the excitement that could be.
Yes.
Long story about how
beautiful.
a voice from the outside, which we absolutely need because we believe lies.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but we believe lies. The whispers that come to us, they come to me every day. And on a good day, I'll go, thanks for your opinion. Now I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
But
I mean, for our friends listening who go, okay, Al, but I have no one. What's the first move?
Well, first of all, I would push back against that because I think just saying that, it sounds shameful. It's like, I have no one. I don't believe that. That may be true, but I think I would say, no, you haven't chosen someone.
Wow.
Because there are people around you. There are people around you that are accessible, but you haven't made the step of, which is a strange step. My friend pursued me without me asking him.
Yeah.
But
you were in his house, so you had made a step.
yeah, I'd made a step.
Yeah.
But it wasn't for that. I kind of wanted to go eat. Or,
Yeah.
But I think there is a sense of there are people around you, and there are people around you who love you, even if that whisper says they don't. And I think one step would be to go to them and to actually say, here's what I'm saying to myself. I'm lonely, and here's what I'm saying to myself, that I don't deserve friends, whatever, and give them a chance to speak.
Yeah.
It's a little frightening.
Yeah.
It's very frightening to speak to that. But you know the people that would speak, and not just to feed you a line or something, but that, like if I would have said to my friend without his asking, I just feel awful. I just feel so lonely, and there's something wrong. And there was, but can you tell me if that's true? I think he would have said, I know you feel that, but let me see what I see.
Yes.
That sounds fun.
Hey friends, just interrupting this conversation to share about one of our amazing partners, Brooklinen. Y'all know I love my Brooklinen sheets, and yes, they're packed up with me to come to New York too. If you're starting to feel some seasonal scaries from the sun setting earlier and the seasons changing, let Brooklinen bring some coziness to your life this fall. Luckily, they offer a whole fleet of sheet options from linen to flannel to accommodate all sleepers, cool, hot, and everything in between. Brooklinen was founded by a husband and wife team, Rich and Vicky, in 2014. Their mission is to provide their customers with hotel quality, award-winning luxury bedding, and they are doing it. They're seriously so soft and comfortable. I have 3 sets I rotate through, and I know a ton of y'all love them too because Brooklinen's internet famous sheets have over 100,000 5-star reviews. With limited edition colorways dropping regularly, Brooklinen keeps you well rested and fresh. Use those old sheets of yours for your ghost costume for Halloween and upgrade to Brooklinen's seasonal picks for linens and comforters and bath and more. It's no trick. Brooklinen's best-selling linens are sure to curb those seasonal scaries this fall. Visit in-store or online at brooklinen.com. That's BROOKLINEN.com and use the code THATSOUNDSFUN for $20 off your order of $100 or more. That's BROOKLINEN.com using the promo code THATSOUNDSFUN for $20 off. Okay, now back to our Build Your Board conversation with Al.
That sounds fun.
Our friends are listening are going to hear on Thursday from my 4 closest girlfriends here in Nashville that we've all become friends as adults. And one of the things that group does so well is say, I'm telling myself this story. Oh, is that true?
That is the greatest line.
It is so helpful.
Yeah.
Because it takes the blame on, it doesn't put the blame on them for what they've done or said. It says, I don't know what you meant, what I heard in what the story I'm writing that makes me feel lonely is this. And then the person goes, that's exactly how I meant it, if they want to, right? Or, oh my gosh, you are tired. Go to bed. You are not hearing me correctly, So
Well, that's my words are I'm making this up.
Yeah.
When you said this, but also beyond what somebody said, you can just say it in general. Like, here's what I'm making up about my life today.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm making up that I'm like.
Yeah.
Will you talk to me?
Yeah.
And to have somebody tell you the truth, it's just
And believe 'em.
And believe them. It takes a while. You might have to say,
Yeah.
say that again, please.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's a game changer. It's a game changer. Yeah.
One of the lies that I have heard a long time in my life is once you're married, you won't be lonely anymore. So I think one of the problems with that is it makes single people feel shame that they haven't found the person to make them not lonely. And once you are married, it makes you feel shame that you feel lonely because I thought this was going to solve this.
Wow.
And so then married people don't want to talk about being lonely because they don't want to talk bad about their husbands. And single people don't want to talk about being lonely because they haven't found their husband.
There's our second book.
Yeah, that's right. We're about to have a series. Everybody buckle up.
No, I think that's so true. I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that we got married. And
There's some truth to it, right? Like I won't go to movies by myself anymore or to football games or whatever.
There is a truth to it. And there is a truth about Adam being alone and not being alone anymore.
Yeah.
There's a truth that something is met, comma, in the midst of not being lonely. When you get lonely in a marriage, it's far worse than loneliness being not married.
Why?
Because you've tasted it. You've tasted a connection with somebody, and now it's not. And it feels like it when you're at a place of conflict. I mean, maybe the kind of conflict that lasts for days or something like that. You just conflict isn't the right word, but a stress in the marriage, and you don't feel connected. The fact that you've had that connection and now it's gone feels worse.
Wow.
Yeah,
because I guess in a lot of ways, I don't know what I'm missing.
In many ways.
Yeah.
But it feels as bad or worse just because you go, it's almost like Adam and Eve in the garden after what they experienced.
Yeah.
And the distance between them hurt even more because they knew what was possible.
I would imagine, I mean, this is literal. I say imagine literally because I can only imagine this. I would imagine that having the level of vulnerability it would take to say to your spouse, I feel lonely with you, must be like level 100 of vulnerability.
That's up there.
Yeah, I would think
really up
so.
And sometimes we don't say those words, but we find
You're
a
like,
way.
Annie, don't say that.
No, you can. No. I'm not going to correct that. But sometimes the actions toward each other say it.
Right.
I miss you. Or making known we're not together today,
Yeah.
which means I'm lonely and I want to be back.
Yeah. So now we're really going to, how early, like, is that something you should start practicing in dating so that that's part of your rhythms when you're married, if you can?
Well, boy, yes. I didn't, but I
never have. I've never been like, I'm lonely with you. And
Yeah.
he's like, great. Can't wait to keep dating you. Sounds great.
No, I think I'd pull back on the word lonely
Yeah,
in those
yeah,
situations.
yeah.
But I think, to say sometimes what's obvious, because in dating relationships, you're going to feel the distance at some point.
That's right.
Whether you have a disagreement about this, that, or whether you really wanted to go get sushi and they didn't want to or something.
Right.
But I think it's the healthiest of things is just to go, I'm feeling some distance between us, and I'm wondering if you are too.
Yeah.
And if you're not, can I tell you the distance I feel?
Wow.
Because I think that sets the stage for a deeper relationship, just to get it out on the table.
Yes.
I grew up in a home that I just had great parents, and for reasons of their own, they didn't do sad. They didn't do mad. Their deal was, and my dad was 19 years old when he stepped on Omaha Beach in D-Day.
Wow.
Went through the war. My mother had an alcoholic father, and they just wanted our lives to be happy.
Yeah.
And they were. But that means early on I knew that you didn't say things that would take us out of happy.
Wow.
And even though I'd gone through counseling school and all this kind of stuff, when we got together, Nita came from a family where there was a lot of fighting. And so we're looking at something that's standing between us, and I'm going, can't go there. And she's
Yeah.
going, there's going to be a fight.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
And so that made us more lonely until we learned that and began
Yeah.
to speak to it. But it still rises its little ugly head now and then.
I mean, that's so beautifully hopeful for all of us too, in our friendships, in our work relationships, in our romantic relationships of like, this is a learning process too. You aren't going to suddenly know how to handle loneliness because you had one conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a practice.
It's a practice, I think,
Okay.
in friendships as well.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
And I wish I could say I was great at it, but I still feel like it's often a daily choice,
Yeah.
or a choice to make often to, if you feel disconnected, to reconnect, or to ask the question, what can we do to connect?
Yeah.
Whether it's a friend or spouse.
We had the most interesting thing happen when we were building this series. Our whole team's sitting around the table. And we have built the series based off a lot of the voices that are in my life, right? And some would say I'm overly helped. I might agree. I have gotten too many resources. There
Well, there
are
are
too many
worse
cooks.
There are worse things.
That's right. There are too many cooks in the AFD kitchen. But it was really interesting because a couple of people on our team said, I don't need anybody. I don't need any voices helping me. I just think about it and sort it out.
Wow.
So my question for you is for our friends listening who are very independent, who have successful lives in that they are a person and they're an adult and they think and maybe say, I don't actually need any help. Is that true? Are there some people who don't need any help long term?
Are those people listening to us right now? So,
Well, they're going to at some point, maybe.
kidding. You know, I don't know a person that doesn't need help. And it may not be at the moment, but just, again, we're outside the garden, but I don't force people to get help. But I think I would just make the statement, when you need help, here's some resources. Or I'm here when you do.
Yeah.
Because I'm jealous of people that say that.
Right.
You know, I'm going,
Same.
oh my gosh.
I was like, tell me how you do it.
Yes.
I'm Marco Polo, my mentor, multiple times a week. My counselor, she is on. I bought her a boat at this point. I mean, like, there's no world where I am very aware.
Yeah.
And the shame voice says you just aren't as strong as your friends,
Yeah.
which may be true. That's okay.
And that's okay too.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying your friends who are listening to this, are in denial. I'm not saying that at all. They may be more comfortable with aloneness, which is different,
Yeah.
or solitude, or maybe the thing that draws them to loneliness just hasn't shown up in their life yet.
Maybe. That's
know?
interesting. Yeah.
Because,
I had a reckoning. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a reckoning at 33 that
yeah,
got me here.
mine was 32.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I was only 33 by about 4 days, so it was
Yeah.
virtually 32. It just hit the fan at 33.
Well, there is this thing that I think is true is like, I knew there were some things wrong with me, but I didn't exactly know what. But I just couldn't ask for help because it didn't come with my family.
Yeah.
And there was, I think there was this moment where your body, or where my body said, there's too much sorrow in here. There's too much sadness. There's too much thing, and we just can't handle it anymore. And I just began to disassemble.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the interesting thing about this conversation about loneliness is we kind of get this wherever we're showing up in someone's life today in their ears. Wherever we're showing up to them may be their loneliest day or maybe their least lonely day.
Maybe going, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
They're depressing.
Yeah, that's right. Or they're going like, finally, someone's telling me. So does somebody in this moment, whenever we're hearing this, is there for sure a voice we need to add to our lives? Or is there a chance that we are good? And is good even the right word? That's probably
Yeah,
not fair.
no. I think it's always important to have a voice in your life, just because we can't see ourselves,
Yeah.
and somebody else can.
Yeah.
I remember daring one time to ask a couple of friends. We were at dinner. I'm saying, you know how sometimes if you're together with a group and somebody leaves, and one of you rolls your eye,
Yeah.
and says something like, "Can you believe that?" Whatever. Would you be willing to tell me the thing that you say when I leave?
Oh, wow.
And it was a little awkward. But I needed to hear it because I cannot see myself, and they can.
Yeah.
So I think we all just need someone that's close, that's honest, that is willing to answer the questions that we ask them. And I think it's important to ask questions. Like,
Blind spots are terrifying for me.
they're horrifying. They're horrifying. And yet once they're exposed and you go, oh my gosh,
Yes.
I don't want to be like that.
Yes. Kelly Haywood, who you know and love. Last September, my nephew died in August. And last September, I was just doing the best I could. I mean, I was here every day.
Oh, I can't believe
I
that.
was doing, but I was suffering. I was grieving so terribly. But I was doing, I was showing up. I thought better to show up a third of yourself than to not show up at all. That is not true. Learn that lesson. But Kelly brought me in the office one day, into her office, and she said, I could not have crafted a better sentence. She said, I don't think you are being perceived the way you think you are.
Wow.
She said, I don't think you're showing up quite the way you want to be. So I want to tell you what our experience is of you during this, and you can let me know if that's what you mean for us to be experiencing.
Oh my
Isn't that
gosh.
beautiful?
That
I
is
know.
gorgeous.
I know. And I thought, what a shameless way to invite me to change my behavior.
That is.
It was
I'm going to
beautiful.
take that home.
Yes, it was beautiful.
It's just the kindest, gentlest way to say something's wrong.
Yes.
Here's how I'm experiencing. Let me know if that's how you want me to experience it. Oh my gosh.
Yes, and that's my business partner, right? So everyone in the org experienced it. But the people who didn't say it to me are the people who work for me.
Yeah.
Right? There was a lot of wisdom, and they all went, hey, you need to go talk to Annie because
Yeah.
we are not experiencing her the way she wants to be experienced. And they were right. They were right.
Yeah.
I had never grieved like that, so I misunderstood what to do. I thought, I don't want to lay on my couch and be sad, so I'll just go to work. And that was not the move. Al, that was not the move.
Not the move.
That was not the move. So even people Kelly brought me out of a version of loneliness even in that because I was lonely in my own behavior.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And I think this might be a time to shift a little bit to solitude.
Yes, please.
Just because earlier we said, loneliness is a wanting, solitude is a having.
Yes.
Solitude is something that you choose. And especially for people who are outgoing,
Yep.
like the two in this room,
Yes.
or perceived as outgoing.
Yeah, that's right.
To choose being alone for the purpose of growing,
Wow.
for the purposes of listening to the still small voice,
Yeah.
for the purpose of reading, of reflecting, usually always, even for the purpose of sitting with your loneliness and understanding that there's more that can go on here. And maybe in this solitude, I'll find God. Maybe in this solitude, I'll find a word and a reading or a poem that will center me.
Yeah.
And so I have something in solitude
Yeah.
rather than I
Wow.
want something. I just think it's really critical.
That sounds fun.
Hey friends, just interrupting this conversation one more time to share about another amazing partner, Indeed. So whether you're a small and mighty team like us or a large corporation, Indeed is the hiring tool you need to find the talent you want. No matter the size of your company, when you're ready to hire, I'm guessing you're already low on bandwidth. That is the truth around here. So no one has time for hiring to become a second job. That's where Indeed comes in. You can hire faster and better with their matching platform. We've always found the right team member, literally always found the right team members through Indeed, and we'll absolutely use them again when we're ready to hire. Get this, according to ComScore, 81% of U.S. online job seekers search for jobs on Indeed each month. This means it's an exact right place to be advertising your job openings. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed does that hard work for you. They show you candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your description immediately after you post, so you can hire faster. And what's even better, Indeed's the only job site where you only pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/soundsfun. The offer is good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/soundsfun. Indeed.com/soundsfun. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And listen, that link and pretty much every other link you could ever hope for are in the show notes or in Friday's AFD Weekend Review. So be sure to check those out. And now back to finish up our Build Your Board conversation with Al.
That sounds fun.
How do we define that for ourselves? So when I'm thinking about, I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to New York for October and November. Do you know?
No.
I'm going to live up there for 2 months.
Is there like an extra room if like a couple wanted to come and visit?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, right. You wish I got an apartment that size. Nope. It's a
You're on the
one-bedroom.
couch in the living room.
Yeah.
Right. What are you going for?
I just have always wanted to. And so when I felt the opportunity in January and came back, I was up there for New Year's and came back to my team and just said, could I go at some point this year? And so back in January, we lobbed off October, November. Wow. So, which is it's such a gift. Yeah. But so even talk to me about when I'm here in New York and am I lonely or am I in solitude? How do we know the difference of this is loneliness and this is chosen solitude? Is it a mindset?
I think it's a mindset, but I also think this word's going to come up again. Shame is not involved in solitude.
Shame is not involved in solitude.
You know, we're back to that again in that the loneliness makes up stuff, makes up those stories and tells you things that if you're aware, if you can open your eyes to it, that you know are not true, but you're not sure what to do about it. And that's the time to reach out to a friend. I would suggest Kelly because that's an amazing thing. I might reach out to Kelly.
Yeah, right. I know.
But solitude produces something good. You know, I often with bands who are out on the road, I'll say to them, create a little liturgy, like before the show or after the show. And by that I mean light a candle, read something together that centers you. And I do that for myself. I have a little time in the morning. I go up to a little place in our house. It's a little library kind of place, and I'll light a few candles and read some, pray some, and be alone. We had a friend. You're familiar with Suzanne Stabile?
Oh,
who's
yes, we love her. We've had her on the show talking about
Queen
Enneagram.
of Enneagram.
Yeah,
well,
she's amazing.
when we were with her one time, I don't remember what it was, but my wife and I, Nita, where we were in the mornings, we'd get up and we'd have some coffee and we'd sit down together and kind of do our private things across from each other now and then. And she said, I'm an Enneagram 2. And she said, out of the blue, in a talk, she said, you know, Enneagram 2s cannot have devotionals with other people.
Oh, whoops.
And I went, what? And she goes, yeah, because they're kind of going, you okay?
Yeah.
Or can I get you something? Or if they want to talk, I'll talk. I won't say, no, I'm trying to think here.
Yeah.
And so Nita and I had a little chat about it, and I found the need for solitude in the morning. Wow. And then you get together and listen to a song or something, or have that time in the evenings together. Yeah. But it's a routine to go be by myself purposefully, not just to have a quiet time or whatever, but to be by myself, to reflect a little, to do. Sometimes I'll read a little bit or a lot of different things, but it's important. And I like both of us. I like to go off by myself for a weekend.
Oh, wow.
A chosen solitude. Yeah. And Nita's great about go.
Yeah.
And she gets energy from different places. She'll go off with a friend or something, but we're okay by ourselves. If I go off on a trip, she's fine. She's pulls out the art supplies and messes up.
Yeah.
And same if she's gone. We're okay. We were by ourselves a long time, and so we can have solitude.
Yes. Is solitude a practice worth pursuing? Is that something does that show a level of health and maturity? Is that like a step toward deeper relationship with God?
I think so. I think so. And with yourself.
Yeah.
Because we're just in such a busy world.
Yeah.
I've found myself, Instagram logarithms have totally figured me out. They know that I love funny animal things.
Yeah.
And they're great, by the way. I have one. No, but I can just get lost there. Yeah. And that's ridiculous. But it just makes me busy. It makes me busy. It makes my mind always active. So yes, I think it's good to pursue, and I want to pursue it more. And it doesn't mean days, hours. It means some time when it's just you and just you and God. Just to be still and hear the still small voice, both of God and of yourself.
Yeah, that is really important.
Yeah.
Okay, Al, is there anything we didn't say about loneliness? I know we're going to finish with that, but is there anything we didn't say about loneliness that you want to make sure we say?
You know, I think we did pretty well.
Yeah, you're amazing at this.
But I do have a poem, a funny poem.
Okay, good.
Because we need a little levity here.
Sure.
We don't. My favorite poet is a guy named Billy Collins. You can go to YouTube and do Billy Collins, and he's reading his poetry. He is a guy that makes poetry accessible.
Yeah.
Everybody's afraid of poetry because of their horrible high school English class.
Yeah, sure.
But we had him for Evening of Stories, our gathering we have every year. Hilarious.
Yeah.
But he wrote a poem on loneliness, and it's a haiku,
Okay.
5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. And here it is. Midwinter evening, alone in this sushi bar, just me and this eel.
Ew.
What I think is just lovely.
Oh, that's great.
And when I read that, it does, you think of loneliness. I mean, it's a lonely poem,
Yeah.
but it's funny.
Yeah.
Midwinter evening, that's a setup.
Yep.
Alone in this sushi bar, that's even worse.
Yep.
And then he kind of says, just me and this eel, and you die laughing, and
Yeah.
you go, it is a lonely poem, but
Yeah.
he makes good fun of it. So
Yes.
I just
and
needed to say that. 'Cause
it feels very profoundly true.
I know.
Of like, yeah, I'm just having a realization. It's just me and this eel.
I know.
Oh, I love it. But Al, you also brought another poem to end us with, which I
did.
really appreciate. Thank you.
I did. One of my favorite poets, in addition to Billy Collins, is Mary Oliver.
Yes.
And she wrote a poem on sorrow. And if people want to look it up, it's called Love, Sorrow by Mary Oliver. And I've read it for a long time to give people who are in the midst of sorrow. Because we don't know what to do with sorrow. We run from it. We don't know how to embrace it. It's something that's just not dealt with a lot.
Yeah.
We shut it down. We move on, but it remains. And I think that's very connected to loneliness. And so almost in this poem, you can exchange the words sorrow and loneliness. And I think it speaks to us. And we can talk a little bit of it after, if we have time.
Yeah.
She makes sorrow into a little girl.
Okay.
Love sorrow. She is yours now. And you must take care of what has been given. Brush her hair. Help her into her little coat. Hold her hand, especially when crossing the street. For think, what if you should lose her? Then you would be sorrow yourself. Her drawn face, her sleeplessness would be yours. Take care. Touch her forehead that she feel herself not so utterly alone. And smile that she does not altogether forget the world before the lesson. Have patience in abundance, and do not ever lie or leave her even for a moment by herself, which is to say possibly again abandoned. She is strange, mute, difficult, sometimes unmanageable, but remember, she is a child. An amazing thing can happen, and you may see as the two of you go walking together in the morning light, how little by little she relaxes, she looks around her, she begins to grow.
Wow. Why did that one come to your mind for us?
I think because we don't know what to do with loneliness.
Yeah.
We don't know what to do with sorrow. And I think she gives us an instruction. When she makes it into a little girl, it changes what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And she makes it into something you need to take care of, love, embrace, and embrace in a way that perhaps invites God into it with you. And I think the hopeful part is she goes, again, as you may see, as the two of you go walking together in the morning light, how little by little she relaxes, she looks about her, she begins to grow. To me, that's just a hopeful line that in embracing sorrow, which is a part of our life,
Yeah.
and embracing loneliness, both true and made up, if we embrace it, we can grow.
Yeah. Al, thank you. Thank you for doing this today.
Thanks for having me.
Man, what
I've
a
learned
gift.
a lot myself
Oh
from you.
gosh, no. This is our mind blown emoji button.
Wowie, zowie.
And it has been all my self-control not to do this 10 times today. So you have blown our mind with good theology around loneliness. So
Thank you.
what a way to start the series. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, y'all, isn't he so great? That conversation was so helpful to me. This is how we want to start off this series. Gracious, I'm so thankful for him. Hey, make sure you follow Al on Instagram. Tell him thank you for being here to kick off this series. And for a full list of all the resources and Instagram handles from our Build Your Board series, just go to anniefdowns.com/buildyourboard. And there is a lot more content over on our That Sounds Fun podcast Instagram. So make sure you're following there at That Sounds Fun podcast. If you need anything else from me, I'm embarrassingly easy to find. Annie F. Downs on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the places you can need me. That's how you can find me. And I think that's it for me today, friends. Go out or stay home. Do something that sounds fun to you, and I will do the same. Today, what sounds fun to me is getting all my laundry done before I go to an apartment that does not have a washer and dryer, you guys. It's a new life. It is a new life for 2 months. Y'all have a great week. We'll see you back here on Thursday as we continue our Build Your Board series with tackling one of the most asked questions I get. How do we make friends as adults? It is hard. So some of my best friends here in Nashville that I met once I moved to Nashville are joining me for this one, and we're going to talk about it. I can't wait. I'll see y'all then.